Steve Reed, musician's friends.
Good to see you, man.
The incredible, I don't want to overdo it here, Derek Trucks. Got a chance to see Derek play the other night in Mountain View Winery, and it was a show to be remembered.
Thanks, man.
You've got quite a band you put together.
It's a serious lineup. It feels good.
Serious.
Not any, no missing pieces on the stage.
Yeah, everybody's covering their parts, huh?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. We're about a week and a half into this current lineup of the band, and it's starting to gel finally. So exciting. If we can write a bunch of tunes, I think it could be on.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a good opportunity to get some new material out. You've working with your wife, with Susan here too. That was a real treat for me. I hadn't seen Susan perform.
Nice.
And, is it inspiring?
It is, and it's a chance for us to have our kids on the road too, and the full family. So it's been such a busy few years that whenever you can get time to be together, whether it's working or not, you have to seize it. So that went into the thinking of this tour as well. Yeah, my son is 5, my daughter is 2, so now's the time. You gotta do it when you can.
They're magic children. I mean, the family's so important, and it's neat that you're able to find some time with them. But it seems like you finish your own tour and somebody else wants you to play with them.
It's been busy, but no complaints.
Yeah,
the other side of that would be much worse.
You played a lot with Warren Haynes, with the Allman Brothers, and just finished a tour with Eric Clapton.
Yeah, I've been on the road with the Allman Brothers for about 8 years, and the Clapton tour went a whole year. So last year was 3 bands, with this 4. So it's been a busy few years, but we're finding time to get records in there and getting things done. It's been good though.
How was it touring with Eric? I mean, he's one of my heroes. I follow him. I saw 2 of the shows that you guys did, and
he's a really gracious guy. It was great to hang with him and hear the stories and pick his brain and play music with him. There was a lot of great moments, a lot of great nights.
Did you sit around? I mean, obviously you do your rehearsals and stuff. Did you find time to sit around and casually make music?
Yeah, I mean, there was times backstage where there'd be acoustic guitars around and things would happen. So a few of the tunes that we never played on the tour, like I Looked Away, some of the Dominoes tunes that I ended up learning, thinking we might play, I would just pick up and play, and he would jump in. I don't think he has done a lot of those tunes live, so it was great to hear him singing and playing it. So a little private concert.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Obviously you started playing at a really young age. Was it instantly easy, or did you have to work like everybody else does to get your chops?
I think the bedrock of it came pretty quickly, pretty naturally, and then after that, it's been on the road for 16 years, doing it, actually longer than that now. So there's been a lot of road time, a lot of practice time involved. I think it originally came quick, but then it all depends on how far you want to go with it, how deep you want to take it, and there's no instant or easy path other than locking the time. Whether it's on stage or in your room, or sometimes it's just listening. Listening properly, or listening with your head wide open. So there's been a lot of hours thrown into it, a lot of years.
Do you find yourself with a guitar in your hand a lot of the time?
Yeah, I mean, we play all the time, so that's part of it. When I'm home, not as much, but always listening, always keeping the ears open.
I was watching you play, and I mean, slide playing. I mean, I've dabbled in it and played with a little bit of it. Seems not just in your slide playing, but maybe because you play slide a lot, you seem to have mastered your muting. The things you're able to do and just get out of the guitar what you want. How important is muting, and how hard was it to learn it?
A lot of that stuff, a lot of the the unorthodox techniques just kind of developed over the course of, you hear things or sounds you want to get, and you instinctively find it. And like with the right hand, I really don't know what's going on over there. I was doing one of those guitar lessons for one of the guitar magazines, and they were trying to get right hand technique stuff, and I noticed when I was trying to figure out what was going on, it would actually interrupt what was happening. So I was like, you know what? I don't know what's happening.
I've seen some of the guys who transcribe or give lessons, and they're incredible at transcribing, but they don't have the technique at the level. I mean, I think what you're saying is at the point where you're playing now, is it's kind of flowing, and if you stop, take a break to try and figure it out, you lose it.
Sometimes it's better to just do what you have to do to get there, do what you have to do to get the sound out or whatever you're hearing, and not really worry about what it takes. You know, I think a lot of times, especially if you want to do something that's different or something that hasn't necessarily been done yet, I think you have to take that mindset. Obviously, there's a certain base that everyone has to get to. There's a certain techniques that everyone you want to figure out right out of the gate, and then after that, I think it's, especially for the type of music we play, it's pretty free. You know, you can go about it. There's a million ways to get there.
So you've listened to, obviously your music is deep and varied. You've listened to a lot of influences, not just rock guitar players, blues guitar players. I think you must have listened to some otherworldly music.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different music on the bus, whether it's great R&B or gospel singers, or Indian classical, like sarod players, Qawwali singers, a lot of the great tenor players, a lot of John Gilmore, John Coltrane, Wayne Shorter, the Sun Ra group. There's a lot of world music on the bus. I think it's when you can really start listening and taking out the genres and style and really get into the essence of it, I think you can find a lot of common threads to whether it's Delta blues or gospel or music from other parts of the globe. There's a lot of common themes, whether it's certain melodies that appear in certain types of music or certain time signatures that appear. There's a lot of things that seem pretty universal that way. So with our group, we try to bridge some of those gaps, and sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's more obvious, but that's a fun road to go down.
Some of those things just find their way in because you absorb it listening, and they find your way into your playing.
Yeah, a lot of it for me is that way. It's like with the vocal music or the Indian classical music, you're just listening to it for years and years, and then down the road it starts coming out and you're playing. It's nothing that you intentionally do, but that's why I always feel it's important as a musician to be careful what you actually listen to. You have to, athletes, you got to be careful what you put in your body. I think as a musician, you got to be careful what's logged in there, because any of the BS music, any of the lightweight music you hear, it's gonna trickle out sometimes. Every once in a while you play something and like, where did that come from? And then when I realize where the melody came from, make sure to pull that one out.
Yeah, crap in, crap out.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be careful, man. But it's the same with the other side of it. If you're putting serious music in there, every once in a while you'll get lucky and stumble. You'll stumble and play something, and sometimes for me it takes a week. There'll be a melody stuck in my head that came out while I was playing, and it'll take a long time to figure out where it actually came from. It can be a classical piece you heard, it can be an old blues, it could be a field holler you heard, it could be anything.
So you've gotten to share the stage, like I said, with Clapton, and but not just in the rock and the blues field. You've had, how deep are you going to the jazz side?
I mean, lately I've been really fortunate. I got to work with Wynton Marsalis and his septet at the Lincoln Center recently. That was quite a thrill. Got to record with McCoy Tyner and Jack DeJohnette, Ron Carter. It's been nice being able to branch out and dabble. I wouldn't pretend to be a jazz guitarist, but it's fun to peek into those worlds and kind of make what you do fit.
And grab something from it.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to grab from that stuff for quite a while. So
It's serious music. Last night Herbie Hancock was here.
yeah. A lot of the guys from the band came down to check it out.
Yeah.
So.
One of the things in the show the other night that just boggled me was that you would do some things, and I think they're original, but in the style of old traditional blues. And it was deeper, I thought, than any of the original. I mean, you hate to say that because there's guys that wrote the stuff and lived the life and everything, but I've never heard it performed with such sensitivity and still have that edge, the rawness that you guys captured, the dynamics.
Well, I think a lot of times seeing, because a lot of that music, unfortunately, is kind of fallen by the wayside. The people that do play it just kind of paw at it. I don't think they ever dig in and try to get at what those original recordings were about. So recently we've really dug in and listened to hours of Howlin' Wolf recordings and Charlie Patton and try to get to the base of it. And so it's sometimes you have to break down the set and just snare drum with brushes and a small combo amp and really get that sound to get your head in it. And it's nice to be able to do that. And seeing it live is a different effect too than hearing it on a record that was made 40 years ago. So the immediate, yeah. But it's nice. Those melodies and those grooves and those just the way they approached it was so fresh and new when they were doing it. I think it's nice to try to dig into that.
And when Todd came out and sat down, I couldn't tell from where I was sitting, but it was a guitar he was playing bass on.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of those old Hound Dog records and a lot of that Chicago blues where it would be two guitar players, one guitar player playing the bass lines and through a little amp, and it's such a different sound. It drives different, and so we've been experimenting with that. He's got this old Guild, and I've been looking for these old Silver Tones and Supros, all these old mail order guitars from the 60s. All the vintage stuff that no one wants yet. We got to get them before they skyrocket like everything else.
Before they disappear,
yeah,
you can't get them.
Because it's gotten to the point now with vintage instruments that if you're a player, more than likely you're not going to be able to afford like an early 60s SG or Les Paul. It's either sell your house and get one or just deal with a reissue. So.
Have you got quite a collection?
Not of that stuff.
No.
I mean, I have a few guitars. I've lucked into a few old Nationals and stuff. But yeah, whenever you can find that stuff at a cheap price and it sounds right, So a lot of those Supros, Dan Electros, Silver Tones, you just can't find that sound with a good instrument.
Yeah.
You got to find a beater, man.
Yeah, they sounded that way because they were cheap.
Exactly.
Chunky,
and there's a definite niche for them.
Yeah.
That sound you can't recreate. But on the other side of that is guys like Hubert Sumlin, who was on those original Wolf recordings. You would see these old junker guitars that he would play, and I would think the only way to get that sound is by playing that. And then I would see footage of him recently, or I saw him play recently, and he's got a brand new Gibson Les Paul and a reissue Fender. It's the exact same sound.
Yeah.
Some guys just have it, man.
Well, you've got that too, and Eric, I can hear 3 notes from Eric. I don't care if he's playing a different amp, different guitar.
And it's him. Yeah.
It's so deep inside of you now that it comes out through your touch, your attack.
It's the attack. Yeah, a lot of times it is the attack, and it's there's a certain sound you hear, and you just will it.
Yeah.
I noticed that with him when I saw one of the Cream shows at Madison Square, And when I first walked in, I saw him with the Strat in the basement. And before I heard a note, I was slightly disappointed that it wasn't the Les Paul. And then he cranked it up, and I completely forgot that he was playing the Strat.
I heard a lot of people complain about that, but I was there for all three of those shows.
Yeah, I mean, if you were complaining, it was because you were listening with your eyes and not your ears.
No, he sounded. That was really neat to see Cream reunited.
Yeah, and when they did, I think it was Stormy Monday or one of the slow blues, he lit into it. That was before I had gotten the gig, but we hadn't done any of the shows yet. It was before the tour started, so I barely knew him. I went back and talked to him briefly, and but watching him during that show, it was great because it reinforced in my mind. I was like, oh yeah, that's that guy.
That's why
he is who he is. So it made me go into that tour that much more excited because, I mean, obviously it was an exciting gig, and I didn't go into it, you know, lightly at all. But seeing him actually do it in that trio setting was it made it that much better.
That was a lot to swallow. I mean, he hadn't done that for a long time.
Man, I mean, you're naked. You gotta put up or shut up when it's trio. There's nobody to cover your ass.
You can't stop and wait.
Yeah, it's here it is.
So did you find you're pushing each other on that tour? Were you guys?
I think so. Yeah, there was a lot of interaction, and you know, with Doyle and Eric, and there was three of us, and there was a lot of mutual respect flying around the stage. And whenever you're in that setting, you want to impress the guys around you. You're not, at that point, it's not even for the audience necessarily.
Yeah.
You're like, when I'm playing, I want the guys on stage to go perk up. Even though they hear you every night, you want to make that extra step.
It's not like a gunfight. It's more like just want them to appreciate what you do.
Yeah, no, it's not competitive. It's you respect everybody so much that you just want to have that level of excitement always growing. And I think there was a good portion of the tour where that was happening all the way around. So
Doyle can step out there when he gets on it.
Yeah, I mean he comes by naturally. You know, his upbringing is right in the middle of that. He's the Texas blues and was born into it. You know, raised with Stevie Ray Vaughan around, and you know, Albert King's music and Lightning Hopkins and all that stuff. So he doesn't have to pretend.
Yeah. Well, I think the same thing with you and Eric and other guys that have grown up through their era and were around the right things at the right times.
It really helps, man. Even if you're not openly taking it all in, just being around it, it's gonna rub off. Yeah. Unless you're just a complete knucklehead.
Yeah, there are complete knuckleheads.
There are people that can just be surrounded by it and somehow don't grow into it. But you know, it's important. I mean, when you're doing those gigs, or early on, we were doing gigs with John Lee Hooker when he was 82, or you're around BB, or you're around Solomon Burke. You're around when you're in a room with guys like that, you have to soak it in, and you realize that you're fortunate to be there, and you realize that no matter what you feel about what you're playing, you have to respect that on a different level. I mean, they're the guys that paved the way, and if you have any success at all, or if your music is growing at all, it's very much on the backs of those guys. So it's important to pay your respect and realize when you're around it that you're lucky to be there.
It's greatness.
Yeah, you really do, and those guys. A lot of the blues guys especially are just falling. There's not many left of the real stock.
They're getting old.
Yeah, they are, man. I mean, BB and all those guys are up there, so you got to catch them while you can.
We did one of our sweepstakes with BB King. We got to go to New York and see him in his own club. And
Nice.
I walked in the room with him to do the meet and greet with our winner, and I mean, I'm not starstruck. I'm just not that way.
BB's a different.
BB King.
Yeah.
It was like the Beatles. Or,
It's like meeting Santa Claus or something.
Yeah, it's
meant
beyond
to be a
real.
creature, yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, it's BB King.
He's just
I
so.
didn't know he really existed.
He's a king. I mean, he's got royalty.
Yeah, he really is, and he's so gracious, man. He for me, seeing him and getting to be around him a few times. I never played with him, but Susan has, and I've been around shows and met him, and he's such a gracious guy. It makes you realize that no matter how much you travel, how much you work, you don't have the right to be cranky or bitter about it. I mean, he's been doing it 50 years,
Yeah.
300 nights,
Always a
sometime,
gentleman.
and yeah, always a gentleman. So you see guys like him and Willie Nelson, and if you ever get cranky, you remember those guys, and you're like, no.
Yeah. So
don't have
your
the right-
gear and your instruments, I mean, you've got your go-to guitar, and do you pull out, I don't see you pulling a lot of guitars out on stage.
Yeah, I mean this tour more than ever because we're doing a sit-down set and there's some other things. But normally when I find one instrument, I try to stick with it, just so I don't have to think about it. So the instrument becomes second nature, and you can focus on other things. But
You don't have a lot of pedals or anything, you just,
just plug in. I mean, I run through a tuner and right into the Fender amp, and that's that.
You
Sometimes
got
I have an AB box if I have the 2 amps up there, as I have a spare. So, but no effects at the moment.
so you're old supers, huh?
Yeah, old Supras.
I love those
Mid
amps.
and early '60s. So, yeah, hard to beat, man.
How do you set them up? I mean, what do you,
Well, as speakers come and go, and the original speakers usually blow out after time. I've tried a bunch of things. The tone tubbies are nice. Weber has designed speakers after the pile drivers that I sometimes put in my amps, so those have been nice. But have a guy in Denver that works on the amps and just gets them back to close to original with maybe a little extra juice in it, and just run it close to full tilt. Let the speakers like beg for their life, and let the tubes just right at that point of almost incinerate.
have you had them bias that hotter,
Usually,
Yeah.
just a hair. But we actually had a bias knob put on the front of one of them so we could check the power every night and kind of tweak it a little bit.
It's hard on the Transformers, but it sounds so good.
It sounds really good, man. It's good.
It shortens the life of a vintage amp.
Yeah, I've noticed, man. There's times where you'll be playing a tune and like, this is the best the amp has ever sounded, and then 20 minutes later it blows up. It's always that last song before the amp blows up
That last happy moment before
man,
it
it's
died.
unbelievable. The tubes are just blue.
Yeah.
And then it's all lights out.
Yeah.
Yeah, once the transformer goes, it's a different amp.
Yeah.
That's that.
And then your technique playing. I see your subtle differences. You grab your volume knob a lot, not just to do swells, because it seems like you're looking for the exact sweet spot. Is that right? Am I guessing right?
Yeah, a lot of times, and there's when you're not using pedals, there's a certain point where the amp breaks up, just like you want at this point where it cleans up the way you want it. So that's where you can get overtones and harmonics, and it's so different night to night that you constantly just have to be just attentive.
You play a lick, and then you reach, and you grab the knob a little.
And some nights it's just hopeless, so you just do your thing.
Isn't it great when it's perfect?
Yeah, it's rare, but when it happens, you definitely appreciate it.
And you got the same amps, you got the same equipment, but it's different every night.
Every night, sometimes it's the room, sometimes it's the humidity, sometimes it's the time of day.
Do
Sometimes
you use
it's-
power conditioning to try and even out the power?
Not at the moment. We did for a while. We had our trailer stolen with everything in it. I think the power conditioner was in there. I don't think we re-upped yet, but yeah, sometimes that helps. Yeah, and a lot of times it is the power in the room. Sometimes it's just the acoustics of a room.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah.
temperature.
Yeah, your strings. I don't know what. It's hopeless.
Could be your hands one night even too.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but
Yeah, you're right. Could be your ears from whatever you listen to during the day.
well, gosh, I can't wait to see the show. This is
This will be fun, man. I'm
Thank
gonna go practice for a minute, get
Great.
warmed up.
thanks for taking the time for us. And,
Appreciate it, man.